Brod told Lucille that he would prohibit him from leaving while he was still training under him. Lucille wasn't too fond of the idea, but he thought there was no other place where he could train, so he negotiated that he would only train for a month. Brod seemed pleased to hear it, and then he told Lucille that he would show him how useful he is in the guild and work him hard for a whole month until he was really ready to train. Lucille was worried that their deal was too unfair for the guild since he was getting free accommodations, food, and training, so he asked Brod if the guild master wouldn't be upset. But Brod confidently said that he had enough authority to decide. Lucille was really excited after hearing it, and he could only think that it was all because of his monster luck skill. After his training, Lucille fetched some water and took a bath. While he was shivering because of the cold water, Brod came and threw a set of clothes at him before asking him to come to the cafeteria. After changing his clothes, Lucille wondered what he should do with his old clothes. He tried smelling it, but it was so gross that he immediately put it away from his face. Nana Ella giggled after seeing this, but she immediately praised Lucille for his hard work and thanked him for healing the injured adventurers. Lucille said that she didn't have to thank him before asking what she came for, so Nana Ella explained that Brod had asked her to wash his clothes. He was happy at first, but he refused after he remembered his clothes' gross smell. Nana Ella was visibly sad because of this. She thought that Lucille didn't want to let a beast folk touch his things. Lucille immediately explained that it wasn't the case, and he was happy that she wanted to wash his clothes. But he didn't want to let someone as pretty as her wash his clothes for him, especially with the gross smell. Nana Ella seemed really happy because of his praise, and she immediately took the clothes from Lucille's hand, insisting on washing it for him. Although he was still hesitant because of its sweaty smell, Nana Ella didn't give him a chance to refuse, so he could only thank her and ask if there was something he could do in return. But Nana Ella only gave her a cute smile, happy to wash his clothes for him. Seeing this, Lucille thought that he would find a way to thank her someday. Lucille came to the cafeteria for dinner, and Brod immediately asked him to come over. Lucille felt nostalgic seeing the adventurers. He thought it was similar to office get-togethers from his past life. Lucille was surprised after seeing all the food on Brod's table. He asked if there was a party, but Brod told him that all the food was for him, and he also asked Lucille to come to the basement after finishing his food. He was wondering if it was part of the training. After taking the first bite, he got excited about how delicious it was, and he quickly devoured the rest of the food. After his meal, Brod showed him his room before telling him to get enough rest, since he will be busy healing more adventurers the next day. After Brod left, Lucille tried to sleep. However, he wasn't sleepy at all, so he checked the time. It was only 7 in the evening, and he thought that no modern man would be able to sleep that early. Because of this, he decided to work on mastering his skills to boost his level. He stretched his body, cast his skill, and meditated until he fell asleep. The next day, Brod screamed from outside his room to wake him up. He told Lucille that while he was in training, he would be eating at the cafeteria. Then Brod introduced him to Gulgar, who happily greeted him before introducing himself. Lucille realized that Gulgar was a half-bear. Then Lucille greeted and thanked Gulgar for looking after him. Afterwards, Lucille nervously asked him his race, and he thought he got tricked when Gulgar said that he was a wolf folk. Afterwards, Gulgar brought out an odd-looking drink. He explained that the Sage of Time had made it, and it's great for Lucille since it will improve muscle strength, endurance, reaction time, and other things for 6 hours. However, it tastes like crap, so no one wants to drink it, even with its effects. Lucille thought that it was like a cheat, but he couldn't help but feel worried about its taste. The other adventurers left after seeing the drink, so Lucille wondered if it was really safe to drink it. But after thinking about its cheat effects, he still wants to drink it. Although he felt like his nose was rotting from the smell, his priority was to get stronger, so he braced himself before drinking. It was so bad, and aside from the disgusting slimy texture, he felt like all kinds of flavors were ravaging his mouth. Then he decided to call it Substance X. Although he wanted to spit it out and immediately wash his mouth with some water, he thought that the bear in front of him was too scary, so he endured his urge to spit out the drink. Then he decided to chug it, worried that he would pass out because of the disgusting taste if he lost his focus. Gulgar almost cursed in shock, while Brod was visibly tense after seeing Lucille drink everything. But he was happy to see Lucille's determination. At the same time, Lucille started doing all kinds of exercises after noticing that his body was overflowing with energy. Afterwards, Gulgar asked Lucille to eat the meat he prepared and join Brod for his training. And he was amazed that Lucille had the guts to finish the disgusting drink. It's been almost a week since Lucille came to the Adventurers Guild. Although his improvements are visible, it is still impossible for him to land a hit on Broad, but the fact that he is still enthusiastic about his training is making Broad happy. Broad started throwing punches at Lucille again while giving instructions. Although Lucille was doing much better defending himself now, he still couldn't last long against Broad. Even though he was constantly getting beaten up by Broad, Lucille still wanted to continue and learn as much as he could. Broad even thought that he was creepy because he could force a smile even while in pain. But Lucille said that it helped him loosen before declaring that he would eventually land an attack on Broad. However, it only fired up Broad to continue beating him up. Seeing this, he suddenly regretted what he said. However, an adventurer suddenly arrived, asking him if he would really heal people for free. Lucille confirmed this before asking the girl where her injury was. The girl showed her back, saying that she had been bitten by a were-rat. Lucille told her that although he could heal her, she would need to visit a doctor if she felt ill since the rat bite could lead to the spread of disease. Afterwards, he started reciting the healing spell, and the girl's wound healed in no time. However, the girl suddenly started crying. The other adventurers were surprised that he was willing to heal a beast folk, but they thought that he was really a good guy. Lucille explained that whether it's humans or beast folk, they are just patients for him. Then the adventurer praised him again for being a good guy before asking if they could return to him if they got injured again. Lucille said they could come anytime, and the girl hugged him while thanking him. Afterwards, the adventurer told him that they couldn't believe he was training under Broad since he turns into a completely different person during training, and they are all avoiding him because of this. But he could only complain that no one told him this sooner. After dinner, Lucille had to drink Substance X again. Although the drink makes him stronger, he still wishes he didn't need to drink it regularly. At the same time, he noticed that the adventurers were keeping an eye on him on his way back to his room. While he was lying on his bed, he realized that he was already used to his life in the guild. He would train from 7 in the morning to 7 in the evening while having 3 huge meals a day. And then at night, he would practice his magic control and handling. Since he could use the assess mastery skill, he could see how much he was improving, and he thought his current lifestyle was actually fulfilling for him. However, he couldn't understand why the adventurers were watching him. The next day, Lucille told Broad that he felt like a bunch of people were watching him recently, but Broad and Gulger looked away after hearing this, aware of what was going on. Broad apologized for putting him under surveillance before explaining that the adventurers were worried that he would run away. Then he explained that since most adventurers weren't rich, the money they earned from quests was just enough for their living expenses, leaving them with nothing to pay for healing their injuries. And what's worse is that they have to take more dangerous quests to continue earning a living while injured. And because they could finally get their injuries healed as long as Lucille was around, they were worried that he would disappear. After realizing that the adventurer's fate was in his hands, he guaranteed that he would at least stay for a month, like they had agreed before. Then he asked Broad to stop the adventurers from watching him, warning Broad that he and the adventurers would need to drink Substance X if he caught anyone watching him. During this month, more adventurers started talking to him normally. Then he started doing target practice for his training. But because he was bad at it, he had no idea when Broad would let him throw a weapon, and he was certain that he wouldn't be able to master anything in a month. Although his enthusiasm for his training hasn't changed, he couldn't hit the target even once, so Broad scolded him. His portion of Substance X also increased to keep up his training, while more adventurers asked for his healing. On his last day, Lucille thanked Broad before informing him that he would return to the Healers Guild to look for work and save some money in order to pay for his training. Because of this, Broad remembered that Lucille is almost broke. Lucille confirmed this before saying that he also had to pay his offerings to the Healers Guild. Broad asked him what he would do if he had enough money to pay his offerings for a year. Lucille thinks about it, but he decides that he would like to continue training under Broad. Then Broad gave Lucille enough money for his offering. He tried to refuse, but Broad explained that the adventurer's death rate had sharply dropped thanks to him, so he decided to give him a bonus. Then he told Lucille to pay his offerings and come back to continue his training. Monica asked him about his promotion, but Lucille told her that instead of ranking up, he wanted to focus on becoming strong enough and being independent. Monica wished him well, as she understood his intention. Afterwards, Lucille immediately returned to the Adventurers Guild, where Broad was eagerly waiting for him. Broad tried to deny it before asking Nana Ella to renew Lucille's adventurer card even without his consent. Then he dragged him back to the training hall to continue his training. While having his meal, he thought that his training was even harder than usual. However, Broad arrived and handed him a spell tome for healing. Broad explained that he would need to learn both the recovery spell and the detoxification spell before a healer could be considered a real deal. So he gave him a book he could use to learn the detoxification spell. Gulgar couldn't hold back his laughter after seeing Broad being nice, while Lucille realized that Broad was actually a sweetie underneath. Lucille thanked Broad, and he promised that he would train even harder. At the same time, Gulgar had finished preparing Substance X for Lucille, and Broad told him to finish it off and start their training before he escaped. While drinking the disgusting Substance X, he swore that he would knock Broad out in the next year. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and look forward to the next part.